It was a winter's day, 8 years prior when it happened. That solemn morning when she understood the value of life for the very first time. Welcome. I don't know if I can pause this or not. I don't know. But welcome to Witch on the Holy Night. Now, this is going to be a very different playthrough slash video series than all my other ones. It's going to be very more calm, less commentary. This is a visual novel made by Type Moon, the creators of one of my favorite games right now, Meltyblood Type Lumina. And this game in particular is the story of Alko Alazaki, my main in the game. Now, if you know anything about Type Moon, you know that they've been releasing a new Tsukihime series remake, and they have not translated it for the West yet. But this game, Witch on the Holy Net, has been translated for us, and hopefully supporting this game will tell them to translate Tsukihime as well. I've been wanting to get into that game as well, but I'm ready. I'm hyped up. I'm hyped up, even though I may not sound like it because I'm trying to stay tame. Her home was nestled on the side of a mountain. Around it was nothing but inhospitable wilderness. She had no neighbors or childhood friends to speak of. Things like traveling to school or playing outside were more trouble than they ought to be. Indeed, with its pure water and bright stars, it was a place rich with memories, both frustrating and halcyon. That was only during the summer, though. Winters in these mountains were extremely frigid, each morning more severe than the last. Our father would drive her to the train station after waiting 10 minutes for the engine to warm up and the iced over windows to clear. I like the visuals so much so far. Her father would savor his morning coffee, leaving her to venture outside and rev the engine. Out the front door she would go, traversing the garden with icy breath until she reached that old sedan. As always, she inserted the key, then started the ignition, and the engine rumbled to life. Just as she proudly finished that humble task she'd done so many times before. A shrill scream pierced thin air, or the air. She knew, even though it wasn't human, that the feeble sound was a cry of agony. A few moments passed. Also, I believe that you can have the Japanese voice read out that, the narration, but as you can see, I'm putting on a little performance right now, getting my voice to be as smooth as possible. Hope you guys can enjoy that. Her father came out and opened the hood of the car. Creaking fan belts. Ooh, oh my god. The visual. I'm hype. I'm hype. A monstrous looking engine. And something that didn't belong. There was a cat, a mother by the looks of it, and her 2 kittens. Jesus. The 3 cats had been huddling for warmth in the engine's compartment. God. Oh, I'm just visualizing it. The mother cat, was missing its head. One of the kittens has been mangled beyond recognition. Okay. One of the kittens had been mangled beyond recognition by the engine belts and surely died instantly. How tragic. The other kittens, its face half covered in blood, panted faintly. It desperately clung to its mother, or rather, the chunk of meat that was its mother's, with the last bit of life it could muster. God. Her father lamented their plight. Dog, now I'm gonna have to check my engine every time before I start driving. What? The previous night had been especially cold. After he returned home yesterday, the cats must have snuck under the hood, drawn by the warmth of the engine. They had slept next to the engine and awoken to a storm of spinning belts. Cars in the 80s were not sealed particularly well, so this was not unheard of. Her father's voice seemed distant. She could only make out a small tuft of the kitten's gray fur. The rest of it was caked in the blood of its mother and brother. I can see its skull. The fragile life of a speckled kitten. Trembling and possibly blind, it continued to nuzzle against its dead mother's chest.
待ちなさい。
She took the kitten into her arms and ran deep into the mountains to her grandfather's house. Was it because she was overcome with regret? Or was it the shock of grief? Years later, she still wasn't sure. Fighting back the welling tears, she burst into her grandfather's workshop. Her grandfather was a magician who could do anything. She had never seen magic. She knew that magic was a fantasy straight out of fairy tales, but so was her grandfather. She had to find him. He was the only one who could help.
その子猫の運命を変えろという。
That voice. The cave-dwelling magician said indifferently. The kitten needs our help, she pleaded. Whether it was a simple task or Herculean labor, her grandfather would not say. He simply granted the girl's child this wish like a machine. Ooh, we got animations. Okay. Okay. The girl said. Before she knew it, however, she was holding a tiny corpse in her hand. Its fur was cold. The warmth of life had left his body, and the tears she had fought so hard to hold back poured from her eyes. Regret spread through her chest like an endless gray sky.
トローだったな。結局元に戻すとは。
Sheesh. Her mind struggled to come to grips with what had just occurred. The last 10 minutes were total blank. Who she met, what she had known, it was all as if it never happened. The only thing she was sure of was that life, once exhausted, can never return.
そこに誰かいるの?
That day, it was her mistake that gave birth to me. Indeed. What? Oh my god, this theme is so good too. Whatever occurred that day, it was a day of nostalgia and longing. This is the fairy tale of 8 years ago, the day they first met, that no magic can ever bring back. Ooh. I'm messing with this visual storytelling. Is this like how it was back in the day too? Or is this just a remake going crazy? Is that my girl Alko? Arrogant, greedy, and able only to destroy. I must be a wolf. I don't have regrets. There's no looking back. If my pride has left you behind, my sincere condolences. But at any rate, I suppose it's my fate to die at the hands of Little Red Riding Hood. Number 1, Strange One. This is fire. All right, I'm not going to lie to you. So far, recording, I'm really liking this. I don't want to say vibe, but vibe. I like narrating. I can't lie. It's super fun. I'm loving this storytelling so far with the visuals and everything. I hope you guys are enjoying as well. It was a quiet morning. From her bed, she could see the sky was an ashen water gray color. The thermometer displayed 43 degrees Fahrenheit, a rather unforgiving temperature for November. Her stomach woke her up with a growl, pathetically reminding her that she had completely missed breakfast. But lazy mornings like today's were, for her, a blessing. I'm loving this. I can't lie. I'm having so much fun. It was already well past 8 in the morning. On any ordinary weekday, tardiness would be unavoidable. But today, classes were canceled in commemoration of the school's anniversary. Gratefully, she had every intention of taking it easy for the first time in ages. Outside the window was a gloomy gray, and it reminded her more of that evening morning. It reminded her more of evening than morning. It wasn't a pleasant morning by any stretch of the imagination. But having been up all night, until just 3 hours ago, she couldn't care less about the weather outside. All she cared about was more sleep. As long as she could spend her morning in bed, what happened outside was no concern to her. She shut the curtains. Ooh. Then closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Reclaim
せめ
her
て
sleep.
あと2時間ぐらいは凡庸な夢を見ていられますように。
Blissful slumber found her soon enough. Her consciousness faded. However, her simple request would be mercilessly refused. This gotta be Alco, right? A faint but shrill sound lingered in her ears. It was the unmistakable ring of a telephone. Much to her Cargan? English isn't my first language. Out of her habit, that's a lie. Out of habit, her eyes popped open.
こんな日に限って。
The telephone was situated in the foyer on the first floor. Answering it meant walking down a 30-foot corridor and going down a flight of stairs. In her sleep-deprived state, that distance seemed somewhere between incredibly far and astronomically far. The phone's insistent ringing continued. She knew the caller would eventually give up if she ignored it, but she chose to fight the urge. Jeez.
アリス出ないの？
Why doesn't Alice answer it? My bad, she just read that. She thought her housemate would get it, but she soon had to abandon all hope. The realization struck that her housemate did not have the day off from school and was likely in class at her prestigious Little Hilltop Academy. Fair? The caller provided incredibly persistent. That persistence made the volume of the ringing seem even louder.
もうせっかくの安眠を。
She was left with no choice but to get up, throw her top on, and leave the room.
寒。
She rubbed her hands together to warm her numb fingers. The mansion's heating system was inadequate, to say the least, which meant that winter was the very worst of an uninvited guest. Never more persona so than an ordinary. Wow. Never more so than on a dairy morning as this, when one didn't need to use a thermometer to know how cold it was. Can I say thermostat instead? I'm sorry. It don't work for me. The mansion sat in the mountains and was surrounded by dense forest. Winter always arrived here first, before morning to nearby towns. The robotic ringing of the telephone reverberated throughout the long hallway. The mansion's furnishings had been so perfectly maintained that it made the place feel unlived. It seemed lonelier than it did splendid. Coupled with a dairy morning, it could have passed for a haunted house.
ま、幽霊屋敷そのものだけど、だいたい2人で住むには広すぎるのよ、この家。
Just the two of us. She counted more than 30 rings since it first began. God. The caller either had a lot of free time on their hands or had a good understanding of the house's circumstances. She had a strong hunch that it was the latter. The window above looked out onto a gloomy sky. She hastened to catch the unrelenting ring in the act as soon as possible, though she had a feeling her happy morning might come to a close the moment she caught it. It was here that a series of incidents began. Apologies for the lack of romance to this tale. Love it. For whether it be objectively true or merely suspicion, it is always from gloomy and unassuming beginnings that extraordinary events are set into motion. Ooh, the visuals are so good. Is that my girl, Aoko Awazaki? Okay. Oh, I'm so hyped for this. Oh, I've been wanting to get into Tsukihime for so long, but there is nowhere to since they don't translate their games apparently. I think there's fan translations out there, but this is like one of the first official translations we've gotten. This game originally came out in 2012, so this getting a remake or makeover, whatever, and translation is insane. So I had to support. I've been very interested in getting the visual novels as well. I've been playing a lot of Steins Gate. I've been trying to finish that up. Oh god, this music! Oh, I feel like I'm about to get into a crazy story. I feel like I should shut up and let you guys listen to it, but damn, this song is great. Witch on the Holy Night. Whew, that theme song makes me feel like it's about to be a movie, man. Oh, I cannot wait. I'm so hyped. I don't know how long these episodes are going to be. Probably pretty long. Maybe we do chapter by chapter. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to get into. We're here. The rain has subsided. I just pulled my mic out of the... Okay. Subsided somewhat by the time she reached her school gate. Sunlight seemed to be playing a peekaboo behind the clouds in the distance. It looked like it might be cleared upon by early afternoon.
と言っても、私には関係のない話だけど。
The weather reflected her luck. On top of being forced out of the house at such an early hour, she had to suffer through a winter rain. I'm getting a bad feeling about this. The sinking feeling she had only grew as she passed through the entrance and headed inside. She didn't encounter any other students along the way, nor did she see anyone taking part in club activities either. The reception desk to the faculty room simply read faculty closed. The school had given all of its students the day off, except those explicitly summoned like her. Oh, that was the phone call, huh? A fact that irked her more and more as the minutes passed. She opened the door to the faculty room and headed towards the desk that she had visited a number of times before. The man at the desk wore a plain shirt and suit that were nonetheless neatly pressed. Slim-framed glasses adorned his face, giving off an amicable yet cunning air. The mild-mannered image this mid-20s man presented clashed with the cigarette he smoked. He didn't appear to have noticed her yet.
Yamashiro-sensei.
Yamashiro. She closed the door with a bang. Showing no response to the sudden sound, Mr. Yamashiro lifted his head. Ooh.
おはよう、青崎くん。要件
Ozaki.
は聞いているかな？
Hold on. Can I let this music rock for a minute? Hey. Okay.
はい。1時間前に自宅で事前に何の相談もなく。
Having graduated from this high school himself, Mr. Yamashiro was not much older than the rest of the students. For that reason, the students preferred him over the other teachers. Makes sense. He always had something interesting to talk about and kept conversations casual. He kind of got that good Alfred too. In fact, he seemed more like an older student than a teacher, but she unfortunately didn't share her fellow students' fondness for him. She was of the opinion that teachers should come across as more donut asutai? How do you say that? Interesting. Like an iron fist that could inspire both love and hate in equal measure. Not a buddy to joke or pal around with. Fair enough. He was the exact opposite of how she felt that teachers should be. It was only natural that her manner towards him would be forced and unfriendly. Not that she'd ever been wired to make friendly small talk.
今日もご機嫌斜めみたいだね、君は。
Isn't she always, apparently?
それは先生の気のせいです。今日だけ特別という話ではありませんか。
This is why I made you, Alco. We're one and the same. I got you. I read you. The matter-of-fact answer perfectly matched the displeasure displayed on her face. Her bad mood from having to get up early and the tiredness from staying up late must have collectively made her look positively adversarial.
そう。
Adversarial.
ならいいんだけどね。彼にはそう辛く当たらないでくれよ。僕らじゃ正直どう扱っていいかわからないところもあるし。
Our guest.
先生、その件ですけど、私まだ詳しい話を聞かされていないのですが。
As Mr. Yamashiro met her piercing eyes, he finally understood the reason behind her tone and slowly put out his cigarette in his dude's face. Is there a way to hide the text?
電話じゃあなんて聞いたの？
Okay, hold on. Let me see something. So you can toggle auto scroll off and on, previous scene, jump to choice. Choices. Okay, I like that. Quick save, quick load. Okay, what if I press the options button? What happens? It makes a noise. I don't want to click around because I feel like if I do, I'm going to start skipping stuff. There's no... I don't want to start clicking around. I want to see if there's like an options menu. If there's no options menu in this game, that's insane. But yeah, let's keep going.
転入生の紹介をするとだけです。理由も脈絡もない説明でした。
One of Mr. Yamashiro's eyebrows stood up, impressed with the brevity of her answer. He could see that she was angry, not because she had been called to school on her day off, but because she hadn't been told why she was here. Mr. Yamashiro chuckled sympathetically.
先生、これが笑い話ならそろそろ帰っていいでしょうか。
いや、ごめん。謝るよ。冗談じゃなくて真面目な話なんだ。ちょっと君の手を借りたくてね。
本当に転入生の問題で？
うん。訳ありというか難しいというか。彼、宗十郎くんと言うんだけど、ちょっといろいろとずれていてね。僕らが案内してあげるより同世代の君の方が適任だと思ったんだ。
She threw him an unamused look. It was negligent of them to be pushing teacher duties on her, but she did wonder how exactly this transfer student was peculiar. Maybe he meant the student had behavioral problems or was difficult somehow. But peculiar, she didn't have the slightest idea what that meant.
ずれてるなんてそう使わない表現だけど。
She had her doubts, but swept them aside for now. This wasn't the time to get distracted by any more concerns. The fact remained that this conversation was the peculiar she couldn't handle, and she needed more information. She was already beginning to fantasize about saying no and curling up in her warm bed at home. Fair.
一つ質問があります。
何？あ、学年は君と同じ2年生だよ。性格は落ち着きがあって人の話をよく聞くタイプ。裏を返せば覇気がないとも取れるけど、それならそれで付き合いやすいだろ。青崎くんとはクラスは違うけど、きっと仲良くな。
そういったことは本人から直接聞きますし、測ります。そうではなく、なぜ私なんでしょうか。
Though her tone was still stern, it was clear that she was willing to cooperate. She had decided to put her feelings of dissatisfaction aside and focus on the task at hand. Forcing herself to act apathetic in spite of her self-absorbed nature was something she was used to. Paradoxically, I'm pretty sure that's not how you say that, this force of will was also the reason teachers put so much faith in her. To the point. At times, the strength shattered expectation, and on those occasions, they were left with no choice but to treat it like a natural disaster and weather it until it passed. That was how Mr. Yamashiro had come to deal with her as over the past year.
もう一度だけ聞きます、山城先生。それで、なぜ私なんでしょうか。
Pressured by a question without a clear yes or no answer, he answered.
それはね、別に青崎くんが先生方に敬遠されているのと同じぐらい信頼されていて、学校のためなら教師も生徒も一緒くたに切って捨てる鉄の生徒会長だからじゃないよ。
それ以外にこんな呼びつけを受ける理由はないと思いますけど。
Her eyes did nothing to hide her disbelief as she glared at him. Strength far beyond that of an ordinary 17-year-old girl, coupled with the youthful beauty of one. Mr. Yamashiro let slip a genuine smile, admiring the miraculous balance of qualities.
いや、責務だけでいいなら僕がやってるさ。この人選に関しちゃ、教師や生徒会長といった役職も関係ないよ。なんていうか、こんな頼みを損得抜きで聞いてくれるのは君だけだと思ってね。
In other words, he knew she wouldn't say no.
山城先生。
うわ、怖っ。もう睨まない睨まない。言ったろ、僕にはともかく彼には笑顔でって。とまあ、納得してくれたならすぐに移動しよう。もうずいぶん待たせてしまっているからね。それと雨の中ご苦労様。帰りはもちろん車で送るよ。
Mr. Yamashiro stood up gracefully. I'm good, thanks, she replied before turning and walking out of the faculty room. I want to hear that main theme again. He had been waiting for about an hour. Wow. While he did, the rain shower lightened into a drizzle. His mind wandered as he listened to the sound of the raindrops. The room was filled with neatly arranged rectangular tables. He was the only one there. Quite some time had passed since he had been brought to this room and asked to wait. Even the best behaved students might have grown dissatisfied or anxious with the situation by now, but the boy stuck to his spot like a scarecrow. He was chilled to the bone. It was the end of November, and the low temperature in the morning had marked the start of winter. The room was not much warmer. The heater hadn't been turned on either. Either he'd been missing the teachers telling him to turn it on, or he'd never seen one in his life. He breathed lightly on his freezing fingers as he aimlessly surveyed his surroundings. This Jerry place was apparently a meeting room. The other students might have considered it a wonderful place to meet, but to him, it was a drab and overly spacious. It was a lifeless place that reminded him of an arid cave. Stuck in this cold room with absolutely nothing to do, his mind turned to what they wanted to discuss. Unable to come up with a solid answer, he returned his attention to the sound of the rain. The rain hardly resembled the rain in the mountains, though he could still recognize it, barely. Its smell and sound were harsher, but at the end of the day, rain was still rain. So even this world, alien as it was, could have something in common with the mountains. That trivial detail perked him up a little. He liked how the town looked soaked in rain. Naturally, he preferred sunny weather, but he liked rain in its own way. The fog from the rain had soaked up the scent of the soil, and it reminded him of home. It was at times like these that he was able to numb the anxiety the city gave him. Random question, but since this is a translation, is there any way I could play this game in Japanese? I'm just wondering because I didn't see any menus. Like we just hopped in the game and we're here, right? Just created, save that, and we're here. So it's interesting how they decided to present this game as like just straight up a novel. Like you just get into it. Which, I mean, I'm not against for this type of game. But then he let out a discouraged sigh. How pathetic. He'd already been here for 2 weeks, and thought of his hometown made him sad. Perhaps feeling that he was being unfair to his new life, he composed himself and continued to wait patiently. That's what I should be doing, composing myself. As if having a passion for distractions, his attention returned to the sound of the rain once more. Waiting like this didn't seem to be particularly hard for him. He quietly endured the numbing cold and the hour alone with calm, deep breaths. As the saying goes, good things come to those who wait. A strong point of his or not, he was astonishingly patient. It was certainly helping him out in this moment. She, on the other hand, was livid. The profile of the transfer student had been explained to her on her way to the meeting room. She was told he lived his whole life up in the mountains without any electricity. That meant more than half of civilized society would have been an utter mystery to him.
なんて絶望的な断絶。戦後どころか戦前の話じゃない。ロビンソンにも程がある。
She had every right to be angry. See, something I like about Steins Gate is when they said stuff like Robinson, whatever, there was like a little help page where you could see what that means. I don't know who that is, personally, you know. His village had apparently remained isolated in the mountains for many years. Contact with villages in the foothills of the mountains only occurred once a month or so, which is unfathomable for modern Japan. Although expressways and Japan rail the old national railways now span the country like arteries, it wasn't entirely impossible for mountain villages like his to exist. But she couldn't imagine how someone born to such circumstances would think or live.
電気がないって、村に行き渡っていないだけで公衆電話ぐらいはあったんですよね。
なかったそうだよ。こっちに暮らすようになってまず驚いたのが電話だそうだし、電話って便利ですねなんて真顔で言われてね、そういえばそうだなぁと再確認させられたぐらいだよ。
She shot a sidelong glare his way as he laughed. It seemed that naivety, what? Naive. I don't know. Hold on, one more time. Listen to me. Give it to me. Give me a second. Naivet of the country boy had cheered him up. Is that just how you say night? I don't. Okay, whatever. Y'all me cheer up a bit.
駐在もいないってことか。うちも実家は山奥ですから、電気が通っていないのはありえないとは言いませんけど。そいつ、学校も知らないんですか？
うん。どんなものかは知っていたそうだけど、実際来るのは今日が初めてらしい。それで緊張していたのかな。あまり会話も弾まなかった。ああいうのも野生児っていうのかな。狼に育てられた狼少年みたいな。 いや、探検隊の話だね。
She is not laughing.
怖いな、青崎くん。冗談だって。そう、睨まないでくれ。大丈夫。話してみた感じ、おとなしい子だったから。なんていうか、言葉の通じない小動物みたいな感じ？
山城先生、その例え、気休めになってませんから。
As she gave her blunt reply, she tried to simulate in her mind, what life without electricity would be like. But the thought of it took her sour mood from bad to worse. After all, in a world she has never been. Wait, whoa! I'm doing my own thing. After all, it was a world she had never known. She could understand why the teachers had given up. She too wanted to give up and return to her warm bed, but her good-for-nothing pride was holding her hostage. Not only did the teachers believe she was up to the task, but she also believed she could do it. It wasn't that easy to go back on her word, no matter how bad things looked after the fact. She walked along the hallway, the rain pattering in the background. The meeting room was already in sight. With a furrowed brow, she fixed her long hair in anticipation of meeting the unknown stranger within. Her elegant strides were like those of a confident general going into battle.
いや、青崎くん、
Mm-hmm.
君を信頼してる僕だけど、念のため確認しておくよ。なんていうか、優しくね。
作り笑いは苦手です。一応努力しているつもりですが。
ああ、そうなんだ。いやー、ほんとよかった。青崎くんにも苦手なものってあったんだね。
Mr. Yamashiro's shoulders slumped the second they reached the meeting room. As he put his hand to the door, his eyes seemed to say to her, "Be nice, please." This only made her more irritated.
わかってるわよ。愛想が悪いってのは。でも笑顔なんて意識して作るものじゃないんだし。
Interesting.
大体そういうインスタントな人付き合いなら飛び丸の方が向いてるって。
I'll try to remember that name. She sighed about her social shortcomings, but then it occurred to her that being called into school on a day off while sleep deprived wasn't anything to smile about anyway. She also thought the person responsible for this mess would be better off attending elementary school. It might not be his fault, but neither was it her duty or obligation to do the teacher's work for them. At the very least, they could have used their brains and organized all this on a normal school day, another complaint she wanted to voice later.
いや、というか敵。なんであろうと敵。悪いけど、情状酌量以前に敵。間が悪いのはお互い様っていうか、ほんと、なんでよりにもよってこんな忙しい時に。
Her pounding headache from the lack of sleep had boosted her aggression by 10%. No matter how harmless the guy on the other side of the door may be, anyone who disturbed her sleep was the enemy. That's pretty valid. And just as she was reaching peak annoyance, Mr. Yamashiro opened the door to the meeting room. The room slowly slid into view. She didn't care for formalities. She looked straight ahead and stormed into the room, and found herself face to face with a most unusual opponent. Before we go on, let's see from another perspective. Turning back the clock just a little. Okay, interesting storytelling. You don't have to do anything. For some, these words are a priceless luxury. For others, they are unbearable torture. For the provocative girl, it was definitely the former, though she'd be too suspicious of the motives of anyone giving her such a gift to accept. For the passive boy, it was definitely the latter, a bitter thorn that made him homesick, though at this very moment his mind was still distracted with the wait for his face to reveal any discontent. He maintained perfect posture as he stared at the gray sky. He had already waited a whole hour, but figured they must have had their reasons for making him wait. The atmosphere in this game is so good, and as long as he had the sound of the rain to soothe him, he could keep on waiting.
でもそろそろ9時を過ぎるのか。どうなんだろ
He had been vaguely keeping track of the time as he listened to the rain. Due to the holiday, the school building was completely silent, except for the patter of the rain on the window. Oh my God, I'm sorry. The art is just, whoo, the silhouette. I love silhouettes. The mood felt as damp as the air. I keep reading the air is thin air. It was then. He heard the heavy clatter of footsteps approaching.
う。忘れられているかと思った。
An hour in a cold room alone. Interesting. He could hear two set of footsteps, one heavier set belonging to an adult. He breathed a sigh of relief as the door slid open.
すまないね。随分とお待たせしちゃって。
The first person he saw was a man wearing glasses and an awkward smile. That's Mr. Yamashiro, the one who brought me here.
あれ里中先生いないんですか？ひどいなあ。話し相手になってあげてと言ったのに。
Mr. Yamashiro scratched his head, looking increasingly apologetic. And then, from behind him, ooh, with a tight-lipped expression that made it clear she didn't want to be there, a dark-haired girl with a determined look in her eyes appeared. Ooh, don't do this to me now. Oh my God. The art, I love Type Moon's art so much. It's so smooth. Ooh, my boy. Okay, I like the bandage on the neck. I see you with the good design. Sojiro gulped. Sojiro? Okay, I like the name too. The sound of the rain on the window faded into nothingness. He looks so good. I love his hair and everything. Can I like flower my boy real quick? Like, all right, no? All right. That's when he knew. This was how it felt when time stood still. Aoko Aozaki the main! Oh my God. Puts a smile on my face. She blinked quickly a few times, as if taken aback. Why was anyone's guess? The boy was everything she expected, a naive country boy to look like, however. She felt something she couldn't understand. The music. Is this his theme? His eyes widened slightly, as if taken aback. The reason was obvious. Putting his feelings into words was a different matter altogether. So we will never know exactly what he experienced in that moment. That's when it hit him. He sensed he'd been touched by the hands of destiny.
紹介するよ。彼が転入生の静木宗十郎くん。で、こっちの彼女が静木くんの案内役。うちの生徒会長で休日を押して新しい仲間の案内役を買って出てくれた青崎青子くんだ。
Sometimes I forget that this is the same character that I made in meltyblood. Her personality is completely different. Just makes me look for, oh, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Oh my God. The chills. His voice and the sound of the rain seemed distant. This is how they first met. Such was their start, for better or for worse, like an ephemeral beauty of fireworks. It was commonly believed among the students that Aoko was always in a foul mood. But this gossip was 90% prejudice, as Aoko simply didn't have the time to be irritated 24/7. The reality was, she simply didn't want to explain herself all the time, fire, and therefore seemed angry about something, obvious or not. The idle gossip did, however, lead to her earning the title of one of the school's 7 deadly threats. The remaining 10% of gossip was right on the mark. Alko herself often had the feeling that her tendency to feel animosity towards harmless things was akin to what a chronic headache sufferer might experience. Today fell under that 10%. For today, her anger was pure, and her childish and selfish display was befitting of her actual age. I'm listening. The meeting room was dimly lit, awash in the colors of the rain. To reduce electricity costs, school regulations, this theme forbid the use of lights during the day, fair? And this was the setting the three of them found themselves in. Hey, my boy. Her first impression was that his calm demeanor reminded her of the field of wildflowers. Hold on. Is that actually working? It is working. I'm just making sure. It's not that. Again, I actually played the demo for this game. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, and I accidentally held fast forward. You literally skip into the future. The fast forward is so fast, and there's no way to like do a slower version of it. So if you want to go back, it's like you have to just. It's interesting how they decided to go about this, but yeah, I didn't play much of it. Especially after that, I was scared. In spite of his perfect posture, he seems to do and frail. And though describing him as meek would be going too far, at the very least he was passive. Even through his uniform, she could see that he was thinner than average. His dark hair was unkempt, and he came across as a wholly forgettable boy. That's my type of people, bro. You just like me, for real. If she had to look at him in a more positive light, she would describe him more a young man than a boy. It was his calm demeanor that made him seem more mature. Oh my god, I don't know what it is about his design. I take him seriously. You know, I don't know. He's a serious design. Was that the cause of Alko's reasonless reaction? He seemed almost too at home in the meeting room, and she was left with the impression that it was her and the teacher, not this outsider, who were the guest here. Ooh, Alko! She felt an unidentifiable aggravation building within her, almost as if her right to be here was in question. Alko felt herself raising her natural defenses.
信じられない。私、今わけもなく怒ってない。
You kind of got good reason, but she hated not understanding things, her emotions in particular. It pained her less than you would imagine for a perfectionist like her, but it still nagged her like a thorn in her side.
ほら、青崎くん、挨拶してあげなくちゃ。
Look at her face. Mr. Yamashiro's attempt to relieve the tension was equally irritating.
挨拶。
After casting a nasty glare in the teacher's direction, Alko returned to face the boy. From the outsider's perspective, it might have looked like a stare down. In that instant, the culmination of her emotional state hurtled toward the innocent boy and skewered him. Oh no.
Yeah, 待たせたね、しずきくん。
Hearing his name, Sojiro came to his senses. His stunned gaze shook loose. He took a deep breath to clear his head. Chalking it up to nerves, Mr. Yamashiro broke out a smile and turned to the girl standing beside him.
紹介するよ。彼が転入生のしずき宗十郎くん。
This is interesting. So we're like hopping back and forth between the two? Because didn't we just do this?
で、こっちの彼女が
Okay,
し
not
ずき
really.
くんの案内役。うちの生徒会長で休日を押して新しい仲間の案内役を買って出てくれた青崎青子くんだ。
Ozaki Aoko. Love her. Having been introduced by Mr. Yamashiro, the girl took a step forward. Her eyes were merciless, her stare an unspoken threat to violently trample her opponent. Sojiro, on the other hand, managed to keep his own composure despite the shock at how confrontational she had appeared. He had never been greeted quite like this before, but supposed mistakenly that this was how people treated each other in the city. Jesus. that I felt that stare. Oh my God, the electricity, the tension. The exchange must have looked quite dramatic to an onlooker. Yes, it does. A girl ready to brawl, and an earnest country boy desperate to understand. It was a murderous limbo, especially for anyone in the room with them. Oh my God, like Mr. Yamashiro, for example. While he had thought he made the right decision in choosing an honor student to help him out, she was in inexplicably bad mood, and the tension in the air was undeniable. Ooh, oh my God. Heat. Ooh, I love that. Okay. It was in this moment that he realized his failure. His realization had come far too late. One false move, and this girl, for whom no problem was too large, would become a storm that would rock the very foundations of the school. Just as the almighty Joker card could bring either fortune or disaster, the sole teacher who had been present at the time would come to bear the blame for the scandal that ensued.
ああ、うん、いけてる。二人とも気
Why
が
is
合う
that
ようだ
what you
ね
would。say? Why did you say that?
それじゃあ、僕はこの辺でいいかな。
Okay. Mr. Yamashiro laughed nervously as he crept towards the... Hey, yo! Huh. Okay, I'm feeling it.
僕は職員室にいるから、終わったら来るように。
Alco's still looking
いい
mad.
かい、青崎くん。くれぐれもだぜ。なんていうか、生徒会長としての度量の広さをこの際僕に信じさせてほしいかな。
Mr. Yamashiro left, leaving the two in a locked-eyed state. One in which one set of the eyes was doing all the glaring. All that remained in the room was the naive boy and the cross-armed guarded girl. This music going crazy. The two lingered in silence. They resembled shogi players agonizing over their first moves, though ultimately it was only Alko that had considered the scene that carefully. She decided to put her irritation aside for the time being. With no reason to feel for him in the first place, she sighed deeply and faced Sojiro.
まあいいわ。山城先生がヒルアンドンなのは今に始まったことじゃないし。それで、あなた名前は？
Her tone was nothing if not reproachful. Don't think I've heard that one either. Though he had done nothing to offend her. But the boy failed to pick up on it. Incapable of such venom himself.
ああ、静木宗十郎かな。君は青崎さんだったね。
For whatever reason, he came across as happy in his response.
さんはいいわ。柄じゃないから。こっちは静木くんでいい？いいって何が？だから呼び方。くんず。
I skipped the dialogue, I'm sorry.
何よ？おかしなこと言った？私。
Alright. There's something I gotta say, bro. This dude's design is kind of crazy. I don't know what it is, but looking at him, I just feel like I understand. Like that's me. Like I don't know.
いや、すごく。
The boy replied immediately, as if it was a natural response, but quickly second-guessed himself.
いや、いいんだ。ごく一般的なんだろう。静木くんで頼む。君は青崎でいいんだよな。
よろしく。
She followed her blunt reply with a swift turn away from him. While she was hardly thrilled at the prospect of the task at hand, it had been entrusted to her, and it was her personal policy to see it through to the end.
悪いけど、優しくしてあげる気はないから。
Sorry, but I'm not in the mood for pleasantries. I'm sorry.
時間も惜しいし、手早く行く
I
わ。
was looking away. I wasn't paying attention.
それは助かる。やっぱり時間は大切だ。
Alko's blunt rancor was lost on him at once. We're almost an hour in. Humans tend to be overly conscious about being ignored, whatever form that takes. If you're still here, let me know how you guys are feeling about this visual novel so far. I've been enjoying it. I can't lie. I knew that the presentation was going to be good, but jeez, the presentation's amazing. My only complaint so far would be the lack of accessibility. Like, I don't know if I can turn the music down, turn the voices down, anything like that. Like, Steins Gate had a lot of options, like hints. You know, you could turn things down, turn things up, whatever. This game has nothing. There's no menu. But it also makes it feel more like a book, like more of a novel, which is interesting. But despite being peeved at landing none of her attacks, Alko did her best to act professional and directed her guests into the hallway. Did you guys hear that? I probably muted that, but there was no sunlight in the hallway, nor any sign of life. There was more like a prison. This was more like a prison than a cave. That was a meeting room. As it dawned on Alko that the hallway matched her mood, she sighed once again.
まず聞いておくけど、山城先生から聞いたことは理解してる。
Oh yeah, she's mad.
ああ、学校の仕組みについては分かった。この建物全部に同い年の人間がいるなんて、ちょっと想像できないけど。
そう、よかったわね。
Alko rubbed her forehead. This Sojiro kid had no idea what he was in for. Fair enough. Apparently, all he'd heard about school was that it was a place where a lot of people meet to study. Oh. High school teachers imparted to students their knowledge in various fields of study while fostering discipline and creativity. But never did Alko imagine that she would have to explain the concept of school itself to someone. Yes, fundamentals were important, but this was absurd. She had serious doubts whether he could even handle classes, but Mr. Yamashiro insisted that things would work out somehow. Sojiro had managed to pass the transfer exam, after all. Barely.
ま、私には関係ないけど。
Alko grumbled mentally as she walked down the hallway. She consoled herself with the fact that today would be the only day she'd spend with this boy out of time. Or at least she tried to keep it that way.
青崎、
He asked calmly, trying to get her attention.
こっちも一つ聞いていいかな。
だから何？
Yo, these faces.
俺の気のせいだと思うんだが、君はまるで何かを睨んでいるように見える。
I'm telling you, this guy, bro, I love his design. I just have to take, I think it might be the eyebrows, bro. Like, I just have to take him seriously. Like, every word he's saying, it's like, I'm listening. Yes, what's up?
やはり今朝は悪いものでも。
His gaze revealed earnest concern, as if asking her if she remembered to eat breakfast. You're lighting up a demon, bro. You gotta back up. It was like another hammer to her head. Oh my god. It was true that Alko had been glaring at Sojiro the entire time. Glaring red-hot daggers, in fact. Not just at him, but the universe. Even on her best days, her roommate used to remark.
青子の視線は普通の人には厳しいわ。もう少し多くのことに寛大になるべきね。
Sheesh. She'd been warned that her emotions were so naked on her face that people treated her like a powder keg. How naive could the boy be that he could not pick up on this? I mean, yeah, look at her face.
私をバカにしてるってわけじゃなさそうよね。この場合。
She's about to go insane. Even she found her attempt to reassure herself unconvincing. It began to dawn on Alko far too late. That compared to her, this laid-back transfer student might as well be from another planet.
いいわ。言葉にしないとわからないようだから言うけど、まるでじゃなくて、ズバリそうなの。あなたの気のせいじゃなくて、私は視線で遠回しに感情を表現してたの。いちいち声に出すのも、会話にするのも面倒だから。
In response to her words, the Martian clapped his hands together.
なるほど。どうしてそうしたいのかはわからないが、確かにそっちの方が手っ取り早い意思表現だ。
See? take him seriously. Sojiro accepted her reasoning without argument, though he still had no idea what kind of emotion she was trying to express. It was as if he could hear the words but didn't grasp the meaning. Ideas that should have connected were instead separated into blocks.
確かにずれてるわ、こいつ。
Look at him, he got a little smile on his face, man. Leave him alone. Mr. Yamashiro words made sense to her now. What was odd about this boy went beyond naivety. Naivety, I think. A stranger in a strange land, he may be. But it was only civilized to forgive him some jet lag-induced confusion?
じゃ、とりあえずあなたの教室に行くから。
She had regained her composure. Sojiro raised his hand and stopped in his tracks.
あと一つ。
Alko waited for Sojiro to continue, but the boy was patient to a fault. She rubbed her forehead with her hand again, nursing a vague feeling of uneasiness.
これもちょっとした疑問なんだが、なんで君は怒ってる？
That's my boy. That's my boy right there. Look at him being concerned.
怒るのが商売とか、そういう家柄の人なのか？
He said, doesn't run in your family. He's insane. A long silence. Though she knew it wouldn't change the situation, she remembered her regret at answering the phone that morning. He meant no harm. She repeated this thought like a mantra in an attempt to keep her impulses in check. I'm learning like
別にあなたのせいじゃ
17,000
ない
new
から
words.
気にする必要はないわ。ただ、この一瞬とお昼まで眠っていた場合を計りにかけたら、あまりに利益の違いがあって頭を抱えただけよ。
With that vague answer, she started to walk again and turned her gaze away from the rude stranger named Sojiro Suzuki. While what constitutes normal is certainly up for debate, most would undoubtedly refer to him as so. He was a simple and nice boy with nondescript features. If he were an ice cream flavor, he would be vanilla. Fair enough. And Sojiro found Alko to be very businesslike and full of life. Oh my god, this music, bro. Somebody. I know it's all on Spotify too. That's fire. There was a certain purpose to her movements as they began and ended in an ordinary fashion. The way her finger raised when she pointed at things. The way she made her way across the hallways and classroom. The way she would occasionally glance back at him to make sure he was keeping pace. Each and every movement was so impressive that he couldn't take his eyes off her. Okay. Akko showed his... Oh, those are footsteps. I was like, is there another song starting up in the background? Akko showed him to his homeroom, Class C of the 11th grade. The room certainly displayed more of a human touch than the previous meeting rooms, but Sojiro was none the wiser as to his function. Akko gave a brief explanation before they visited individual subject classrooms, as well as the gym, cafeteria, locker room, and school infirmary. Next time I need water. Oh man. Sojiro asked so many questions. That much time passed before they reached the AV room on the second floor.
まずいな。
Sojiro stopped, looking genuinely concerned.
あと20分経つと1時だ。
嘘でしょ？うちの校舎そんな広くないわよ。
The tour had begun around 10, which meant that 3 hours had passed. Jeez. A tour of the school shouldn't take anywhere near this long.
そうだったわね。行く先々で根掘り葉掘り聞かれちゃ、そりゃ何時間でも経つわ。
Akko glared at Sojiro. She was being sarcastic, of course, knowing full well he'd never pick up on it. To her surprise, he looked down apologetically, unable to hide his dejection.
なんだこいつ。
The guy before her was now was nothing like earlier. In contrast to seeing his once impenetrable veneer when they first met, she found herself feeling sympathetic. momentarily, at least until her irritation returned in full force.
で、何がまずいの？覚えることが多すぎてパンクした、なんて言わないでね。
いや、それもあるけど、学校のことは別にして一時になるとまずいんだ。
Sojiro's gaze wandered as if worried about something. If he was worried about the weather, he would have a hard time seeing it, as there were no windows in the hallways.
へえ、時間を気にするってことは用事があるのね。そう。人の予定を引っかき回しておいて、自分だけ好きなようにやろうって言うんだ。なんだ、顔に似合わずいい人ね、君。
いや、褒めても何も出ないぞ。
Yeah, this dude is my favorite character of all time.
誰も褒めちゃいないわよ。
She yelled at him, unable to hold back her fury.
で、
で?
それで、一体何の用なの？
Sojiro's face lit up as he finally understood what she was trying to ask
そこ
him.
は秘密にしておきたい。
He said with perfectly straight face.
慣れ始めたつもりだったけど、こいつのこういったテンポには失神しそうになるわ。
Her frustration was natural. Still, she did everything she could to stifle her feelings and fake a smile.
しずきくん？
She took a step forward.
秘密だってば。
Yeah, you're not getting through to him. Feeling the mood change drastically, Sojiro took a step back. And another, and another. No matter how many steps he took back, she kept edging toward him. She was smiling, but he thought he could see the blood boiling beneath her skin.
これ、最後の質問にしとくわね。あなた、私をからかって楽しい？
He had no intention of mocking her, though at this point, he doubted presenting any evidence to prove this would do much to erase that forced smile on her face.
わかった。説明する。
His arms raised in surrender. She halted her advance and freed her face from the unseemly smile.
実は1時からアルバイトがあるんだ。でもここはそういうの禁止なんだろ？
そうだけど、あ、禁止されてるから秘密にしようと思ったの？だね。それなら許可さえ下りていれば問題ないわよ。
知ってる。試験の時に許可をもらってる。
へえ。
Akko's face lit up as she realized he might not be the piece of work she thought him to be. Yet.
しかし、許可は一つしかもらえなかった。
Okay.
一つって、あ、
これでも2件減らしたんだ。生活費だけで大変なのに、学費まで稼がなくちゃいけない。なのに働き先は一つだけというのはあんまりだと思わないか？
いや、あんまりなのはあなたの方だと思うけど。
Though still irritated, her opinion of him changed a little. She was impressed that he was able to take care of his tuition and living expenses on his own. She could also empathize with having no time to oneself. Her anger began to subside. The words part-time job were about the last thing she'd ever expect to hear out of this country boy's mouth.
そういうことなら仕方ないわね。いいわ、行きなさいよ。事情は分かったから。
青崎はいいのか？
She had no idea what his question meant, but she at least understood he was trying to be considerate, which also took her by surprise. She figured he'd be just as dense about people's feelings as he was about everything else.
別に、私もこのまま帰るから。
First, though, she thought it would be best that they both stopped by the faculty room. Mr. Yamashiro had mentioned that the transfer procedures had already been completed, so all that remained was for him to sign off on her duties.
先生、案内終わりました。
それはお疲れ様。しずきくんもお疲れ様。それで校舎を回った感想はどうかな？
ありがとうございます。なんというか、とても学校ですね。
そうかそうか。明日から頑張りなさい。
She had no interest whatsoever in this pointless wrap-up meeting.
山城先生のことは気にしないでいいわ。教え子に厄介なことを押し付けてふんぞり返っているぐらい職員室が好きなんだから、何時間でも待ってるでしょ。いえ、待ってるべきじゃない？
そうか。青崎がいいんならいいんだな。
There it was again. Whatever Sojiro was getting at, Ako had no idea.
それじゃあ行くよ。今日はありがとう。
Trippy. I'm sorry.
今日だけよ、今日だけ。
She shooed him away with her hand. His face bent into a broad smile, as if he found the gesture endearing. It was a softer expression than she'd grown accustomed to seeing out of him. Bro, the silhouettes. It was that kind of smile that would make anyone smile back. Well, most people at least. Alko Aozaki didn't betray the slightest hint of a smile.
それじゃあまた。
And with that friendly farewell, Sojiro walked towards the end of the hallway. Or so she thought, before he turned her into the next class over. Sojiro headed straight for one of the classroom's windows. What? Whereupon, he opened it with ease. The chilly November air filled the room as the soft sounds of the rain doubled in volume. In that instant, she realized his intention of opening the window. She really wished he hadn't.
いや、待て待て待て！
This dude about to jump out the window. He already had one leg out the window when she dashed to stop him.
何するつもりよ、あんたは。
何ってアルバイトに行くんだけど。
その窓は人が出入りするところじゃないの。だいたいここ何階だと思ってるの？
She saw the light of understanding dawn in his eyes.
死ぬところだった。倒れたら危なすぎる。
Yeah, yo.
ないのはあんたの頭。
Yeah, brain. Her insult went right over his head.
あのね、こっちじゃ窓から人は出入りしないの。さっき言っとくべきだったわ。
知ってるよ。時間がないんで慌ててたんだ。ありがとう。これからは気をつける。
Bruv, what? He pulled his leg back inside the window, the closed window. His uniform was soaking wet from the rain.
いいけど、私は別に。あなたがどこから外に出ようが関係ないもの。ただ、できれば私の前ではやらないでほしいだけよ。それより、あなた、本当に明日から学校に来るの？
来るよ。不安だけど案内してもらったし。
He bid her farewell before running away down the hallway. She hoped he would walk down the stairs and leave through the school entrance like a normal person.
大丈夫なのか？あんなんで。
He'll learn. The image of him disappearing into the distance popped into her head, in spite of her ire. She had no intention of spending any more time with him, and yet she felt strangely anxious. She couldn't tell if the feeling was fueled by concern or irritation. Why had she even gotten angry with this insignificant transfer student in the first place? A strange day with a strange transfer student, resulting in strange emotions. Her head tilted as she reflected on what should have been a more enjoyable day than the irritating experience she just had.
いっか。どうせこれっきりなんだし。
The sound of the rain echoed quietly all around her. The gray sky seemed frozen in time. It was impossible to discern whether it was morning or evening. Missy Yamashiro and Aoko were likely the only ones left at school. The unlit classroom looked overly gloomy and ominous as Aoko stood in it alone. She pulled up her left sleeve. Her daintily unremarkable watch showed that it was almost 1 o'clock.
時間合ってる。
She looked out the window at the grounds below. She saw the boy in uniform running throughout the rain without an umbrella, a sight she must have seen before, but for whatever reason, affected her far more than she wished. saving. Ako did not stop by the faculty room before heading home. While Mr. Yamashiro's offer to drive her home was tempting, she decided it would ultimately be far more satisfying to ruin his day, just as he had hers. She walked as quietly as she could towards the entrance and opened her bright red umbrella. She had predicted that morning. The rain was waning in the afternoon. At this rate, it would probably cease completely in an hour or so. The distant sunshine would likely have reached her by now, or by the time she's arrived home.
ま、それも悪くないか。
As it could always be. She shrugged her shoulders in resignation. She neither liked nor disliked the rain, but she found herself enjoying a walk home with her red umbrella in hand. The teachers at Misaki High School weren't fond of bright colors, so Ako's red umbrella was an unusual sight. A ghost story about how the umbrella was once pure white had been making the rounds, but it featured Ako instead of a ghost? Hold on, let me try to... Pure white had been making rounds, but it featured Ako instead of a ghost. Huh. Okay, I see what you mean. It was with that umbrella that she made her way towards Misaki Station. Tsukihime. The private Misaki High School got its name from the town of the same name. The area, once a sprawl of farmland and woodland, but rapid growth over the last 10 years had led to unprecedented modernization. Alright, let's end it here. I feel like I'm going to keep reading, but I think ending it here. I should have ended it probably as soon as she got out of school, but whatever. I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of Witch on the Holy Night. This is going to be a very interesting series, as I've been saying a lot. Been finding myself delving into a lot of new dynamics and videos, and I hope you guys can enjoy that as much as I'm enjoying this game so far as well. Ako Awazaki, I love the fact that she is so different than she is in Melty Blood, because there's just so much room for growth. Like, I feel like maybe this is just me, but in Melty Blood, she seems so much more like happy all the time. Maybe she's putting on the front, but she's way more like happy-go-lucky compared to in this game, where it's quite the opposite so far. And I'm very interested. And I also really like this tone of voice that I've been taking. Like, I like this. It's nice talking like this and just being a narrator. So hope you guys like the voice as well. No outro on this series. I don't think it'd be right. I don't know. Maybe an outro? Whatever. Youth burns eternal. Remember, there's no such thing as hard. Just how long you're willing to fight.
Ha 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 ha.